Hello out there, everybody. Hey, Dimitri, thank you so much for turning around the ship designs. For the folks that are out there watching right now, we are essentially reviewing some prototype ship designs for DrBossKey. So this is kind of like his Starship in which he does battle across the universe. This is the very first cut, so I was going to give feedback to Dimitri on the things I liked and just general guidance. So without further ado, let's jump into this. So Dimitri, so basically, I'm just going to go through the things I like. So I like the way the gun protrudes up here. Also gun shape. I think we can probably iterate a bit more on gun shapes in terms of barrels, but good start there. I also enjoy this kind of carapace lining we have at the top here. Wasn't a big fan of the I think protruding wing designs. I saw that this is kind of like a missile thing on the side here, or a missile here. So maybe it's an exhaust tube, but the shapes didn't really work for me. And I think in general, we're really busy in this space too. I like the kind of reactor design here as a vulnerability point. And I also still kind of a big fan of this circular shape in the front. I get a good sense of like DrBossKey standing on the bridge maybe and commanding from that spot. We'll go over some more bits there later. Again, I just enjoy that we've got these prominent shapes for the weaponry. I kind of like, this probably should be here. I like that we kind of have this squarish missile shape, maybe a little kind of a carapace thing. I think we can redesign this, but I like that I can clearly see that, and the missiles are probably a little the missiles are tucked too far inside of the housing, I think here, just a concept. But I sort of like where we're going with having a bit more of a missile container box there. Kind of over to this. I really like that this was kind of like a steampunk flavor. I was enjoying. I don't think it's for the game necessarily, but I enjoyed the exploration. I also thought, interestingly enough, here this kind of like multi paned bridge design of kind of window side was kind of neat. Maybe there's a way of incorporating a little bit of that design into this kind of curvature design that we have here to kind of, we'll see what we explore there. I also enjoyed sort of this kind of like this flange sort of shape. It kind of was nice to see there. Those are the main things, but I enjoyed the exploration. Thank you for that. Also, I guess in the back here, I also enjoyed kind of this circular, I don't know, just shape that we have. It kind of suggests like a rotor or something like that. That kind of, it's not necessarily what's powering all the engines, but, well, let's see if we can remix that into maybe another design there. Compared to the top, the bottom designs, I really enjoyed that we're much cleaner, I think, in terms of the noise, especially compared to here. And so with this, I enjoyed that we had an extra gun here. In general, the DrBossKey Starship has 4 weapons, so we'll have those weapon points on the ship. We'll have them separate. I have to figure out if I can attach and detach weapons. I don't think I can so much, but regardless, when we do the final bits, we'll have those separated out so then we can exchange them. Maybe not for this version, but a later version of the game. So I enjoyed that we had a little bit more space here that showed the far weapon underneath. Still had the one up on top, which was good. Enjoyed kind of how this wing / arm kind of comes out to give this weapon a little bit more just space to breathe on the bottom. I enjoyed that we had, and this is kind of more like what I'm thinking with the missile slot. Could be another weapon, but I enjoyed that it's not quite here. I think I would bring these things down a tiny bit or bring this one up a little more. But I enjoyed the exploration here, so I want to continue doing that. And then here again with like kind of this rotor design circular element, and I really enjoy like this little flange. I don't know, like tail aspect here, right? In general, I also enjoyed the curve. And then probably looking at the last piece here. So the curve not as extreme on the backside, but I enjoyed this kind of curve side here, kind of mixing the two together. I think that we can have some carapace bits, maybe a curve, get rid of this backside and kind of, remix with this down here. Enjoyed kind of the way that you were showing maybe the propulsion engine here, kind of the back. I think I'll enjoy the more singular back propulsion bits. One of the things we missed here that I kind of enjoyed by from the original is that's a demon. I'm not fully sold on it, but I like this kind of like this idea that in the Starship that it has some kind of mechanized under like thrusters, that help the ship like really work both in space, but also in atmosphere, because we're doing a lot of like on planet and demonic like realm kind of things, right? So, yeah. So I mean, maybe thinking about that a little bit more, or how to incorporate that back in, would be cool. Not a huge deal. Let's see what another remix comes out with. Again, kind of like these rotary bits here, pretty neat there. I also kind of enjoyed the noise here with the back wing, but in general, I think that the wings, while they give a really much cleaner shape, I'm not fully sold on basically these longer wing designs taking up all of the space in the body. I think I like the shapes, and maybe we could explore a little bit more. But I definitely like. I think I like the shapes being a little bit, what do you say, closer to the body. So I mean, here you can see like we have this vertical elongation for the wings. Let's remix this a bunch and see what we come up with. I'm not completely saying no either to that as well. So, but the check mark here is like that. You added the little key emblem that was cute. So, and I think that is it for the most part. Again, with the housing here in the bottom, we'll work on the cannons, and we're going to need, I think, some more explorations there. But with that being said, the next pieces of feedback. So one is plop, bloop. So I attached 2 images here. Here's the thing: is I basically extruded the ship, took a quick look, and right now we're working at resolutions that are almost the entire size of the target resolution of the game, right? So that for the most part, I'm thinking about the game being in 1920 by 1080, so 16 by 9. And while it can scale up, we're certainly we won't be bigger than 19. It'll be a logical render buffer 1920 by 1080. So I want to be careful with us working in the higher resolutions here, because you could see, right? Like, and this is the next image. So I have to scale this down to the to what was the resolution to it's to 256 by 180, right? So even where I gave you the sort of kit bashed file at 728 by 512, I'm still scaling that down to 256 by 180. So it doesn't give us a lot of pixels. And so you can kind of see here, right, that like conceptually, while this is noisy, it's mostly a lot of these lines are just going to get mushed down when we scale down. So I really want us to work with the lowest resolution in mind. Like I said, we can have one step up maybe, but we should. What I want to encourage you to do is always scale down the work and take a look at what it looks like at the lower resolutions. I think because that's here you can also see that like 752 compared to where are we at with this? Let's take a look. So this is the 752 by 512 or 728 by 512. So here, for the most part, I mean, yeah, you can get down to seeing a lot of the jagged surfaces, but when I scale it down, basically to what did we say? My brain is toast. It's been a long day at work. 256 by 180. Yeah. So, yeah, when we scale it down, come on, you can do it. Like you can see what we're starting to lose, and of course, different type of art, of course, in the way things are drawn, but just straight scaling it down with the nearest neighbor, you can see it starts to fall apart. But but looking at the normal resolution, I mean, you're looking at it from kind of that distance, and then again, taking a look at it in engine, or maybe let's take a look at it in oh crap. Whatever. So taking a look at this at the actual resolution. So this is 1:1 in the engine. You can kind of get a sense for. You can kind of see that it doesn't fall apart too badly, but we're starting to hit. We're starting to hit that realm maybe. So I just wanted to throw one in the engine, kind of get a look and have us take that into consideration. Okay, so I think that's all things ship design. Let me also take a look at your questions again real quick. All right. And thank you again. These explorations are great. So that's why I really am looking forward to turning this around. So, dude, very cool to hear that you were working on a roguelike with friends a couple years ago and doing some art in the game space. So very, very cool. I think that, and I can export versions of this so you can actually play it pretty easily. So I can pass that over to you as well. And then I said, so then you ask, we'll need whole asset list later. Yep, totally. Absolutely. If you want to make game look in one style, yeah, we'll definitely, one of the reasons why I'm going through and doing the, basically doing kind of the prototype art, if you will. Let me take a look here, is basically, I'll just give you a sense. It's basically because I'm essentially creating both the enemies, right, and then essentially their behaviors. So this is basically all stubborn stuff. Like here's the lesser demon, of course, and then the lesser demon you can see basically is put together in basically a sprite sheet. So I have both the ability to sort of I can do it in a program called Spriter, but also I can just essentially hand put these together in Photoshop too. So and I guess the point is that this will generate an asset list for us for doing essentially what I consider paint over. So I very much am imagining, right, like I want to have a lesser demon character in the game. This guy's from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, by the way. And so what I can imagine as far as a whole art style goes, and I'm not necessarily even thinking pixel art style in this case, is that we create our own flavor of demon. Similar, inside and basically in functionality to the way this demon is set up, right? So he's got some arm movement, he's got his big flapping wings for profile, and that we need to work basically in these resolutions because I want to have a lot of enemies, and of course, the more enemies you have, the more RAM the more memory it takes up, right? So, and so yeah, what I anticipate is that I'm generating an asset like a game asset list now by basically tech arting this stuff and putting it in. And then that'll give us, like, hey, kind of our laundry list. A good example is like, here's the Skull Lord here, right? So, I mean, Skull Lord is 140 by 91. So, and I think the way to think about it is when you think about 1920 by 1080, there's only so much space on screen that we have in general, in terms of enemies. Now here, the ship is 1-to-1, but those enemies are scaled up essentially. Let me see here if I've got another one of these guys. Hang tight. I got to move the camera around first. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Yeah. So I mean, these guys already. Oops, I'm just running them over. They are essentially. They're already scaled up from, I think, where they're at. So let me take a look at this, just to give you kind of logical pixels. And we've got a ways to go, so I won't go too far into this. But I believe, oh no, so this guy's at 100% scale. So, but for instance, this guy is scaled up by 400%, right? So I think in terms of like bosses. It's basically we still have to take into account the sprite sheet, but if I'm looking at this right here, like, I mean, we could kind of, we could probably go as high as 512 for, in terms of texture space for bosses. Again, the 512 is, 512 pixels, horizontally is probably still, if you think about the way it's going to look in game, let's go to game camera, and then plop. No, there. Oh crap! Stand by. Yeah. Anyways, you've seen the video, so I won't harp on that. Okay. So so we'll get through that list of things. Let me take a look at the rest of your questions before I ramble too much here. So yep. Okay. Very good. Yep. So your question is, how do you see it later? More like old school pixel art? Yeah. So I think not. I think. One of the things I really like about what we've done is I like the rendered style that we have for our characters, right? So, I mean, I would love to see essentially our enemies and ship designs to take on, you know, even though we're painting over and kind of like, because we obviously, I want to get to the point where we're not, you know, working on a crazy amount of art that's you know, impossible to achieve, because I'm probably going to have somewhere between probably around 20 enemy designs, maybe. You know, we've got the main character ship design, and then in the world, you know, DrBossKey is going to essentially fight these, you know, like his enemies, right? They're going to have kind of these areas. So I see us kind of, you know, not taking everything concept wise to the full degree, but I think we can take a lot of cues from this like nice kind of rendered out style that we've been establishing. You know, it's definitely one of the things that you're really good at. So, and I think we have some liberties, of course, but you know, I mean, almost all our characters feel like they belong in the same DrBossKey universe, and I would love to bring this kind of rendered style with lighting over into the engine. I think we need to do a bunch of tests. So, you know, obviously starting with the player DrBossKey ship is going to be pretty huge, I think. And within the engine as well, we have the ability to, and I haven't really messed with this too much. Is it preferences? Camera? 1 second. Here. You know, we have the ability to essentially light particles, and we can light sprites in the engine as well. So I think one of the things I'm looking forward to doing is as we kind of bring DrBossKey ship into our rendered styles, is because we've really, I think, done a great job with, you know, I think like the concept of rendering metal, right? Like, you know, here's a great example of like, we know how to make golds and silvers really pop, and I would love to see the ship kind of take form with that, right? So I hope that answers the question. I think we have to have enough resolution for the characters, because at the end of the day, right? Like, I mean, you know, a character that's in, you know, like, I mean, DrBossKey ship, like it almost, because it's also about gameplay, like it can only be so big before, you know, like 1-to-1. And if you're scaling it in the engine with the oversized art, you know, like you can use some assets like hero assets for like certain cutscenes and things like that. So there is a need to work maybe in a higher resolution, but we always have to keep the, I think, the lower resolution in mind for sure. So, and then let me double check, because I know we're getting long in the tooth here. Thank you for paying attention. All right, so, and then I'll type up some of these things as well. All right, so, yep, okay, so that's about the license. Yeah, so I was thinking here with the whole Kitbash 3D, right? Like that might be a case where construction-wise, I was thinking about, you know, purchasing the assets, sharing them with you. We use them to essentially kitbash some of our designs. Might be faster, you know, like concept-wise, you know, and to kind of communicate between the two of us. But we also, the game isn't going to have a ton of ships. It's pretty much a few ships in kind of mechanical designs, but also it's, you know, we're shooting demons and skull faces. Like those are the, you know, those in my mind, you know, DBK is basically going through hordes of, you know, like demon-esque creatures, you know, and that's something that just gets me excited, right? I like the weirdness that comes with it. You know, like when we look at the Spore Boss and things like that, when we reimagine what the visual design of the Spore Boss would look like. The Spore Boss is going to be organic, of course, but he's going to have a similar form and function. That's kind of what I'm prototyping right now, but there's no reason why we couldn't have like additional tentacles or gooiness, like when he opens his mouth, and like, you know, really kind of drill into that, right? And then we have the, you know, the projectiles and things that come from that. So, but I was thinking here with kitbashing that we use both of them, and that maybe we, you know, this is more mechanical. So, but maybe there's something for monsters out there. I'm not sure. I haven't really found anything great at this point. So, and we can blaze our own trails here, honestly. So, and then, yeah, so we're starting with the ship. I'm just reading here for now. We're starting with the ship, right? Let's make sure to use it. I'll sketch to make it as we used to. Yeah, I'll sketch a couple of suggestions, build design details. Yep, I'm totally fine with the direction we're going right now. Yep, I'll use the file you sent over base for asset. Perfect. When we reach the render, I would like to have a list of ship parts you need in separate layers. Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, so I mean, ship parts for the most part, I'll get those over to you. I mean, at first blush, is basically going to be, oh, that's one thing I want to share with you actually. But it was going to be, you know, we'll need to cut out the weapons, probably mainly the weapons, I think. But the other side of this too is that since we're doing it in 2D, we need to work. We'll do what's basically like a banking animation. So I'll share that with you in a second here. Probably faster for me to just. One sec. I'm really enjoying this package here. So let's see here. Editor basics, assets and art creation. Technically, you're doing 3D as well. So, but that's the thing is 3D art pipelines are they're just more complicated. So, and I don't have a lot of experience in that. So handling these as 2D assets makes it a lot easier to use. And I kind of, I mean, it fits the game style as well. So let's see, animating sprites. Here we go. All right. So here, there's a note, right? So basically, which is you can add a bank animation to the player. You need to create a sprite sheet with an odd in number of frames. The central frame should be the default frame. The frames on the left, the banking to the left, and frames on or to the top, depending on the style of your game. Yeah, so I mean, for us, because we're moving in the horizontal axis, then we'll have a bank up and a bank down, right? So. But yeah, so just to kind of keep that in mind, that's kind of, this is the way it'll wind up looking. So, and then it will have the different frames in there. So for the final ship, we'll also want to draw it in, you know, essentially when it's banking, away from the camera and towards the camera, right? So even though it's still on the horizontal plane, we'll basically need to draw 1 or 2 frames, maybe 3, we'll see. Actually it might be, let's see, so here he shows the 1, so it actually might be 5 frames total. So you have an in-between bank and then a full bank, an in-between bank and a full bank. Yeah, okay, cool. So just to kind of put that out there, so so you have that in mind as well. Okay, I think that answers all the questions. It gives a round of feedback. Thank you. I'll get this up on YouTube as well. And for the folks out there watching, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.